Hey, this is Ty. Kind of starting off the case study the same way, just to kind of show you the aggression that we were first dealing with. Now, as I was creating this video, I realized, boy, we're walking along, and suddenly the dog's not aggressive, and so it's really easy to look over some of the key points here. So, if you have to, I would recommend you pause this, go get yourself a piece of paper, and write down some key points that you can start working on today with your dog to start changing your dog's behavior. Because like I say, this is going to come across a little bit sounding like I'm bragging, and to a degree I am, because our trainers do some amazing stuff. But what you're going to see over this next half hour is results that just aren't being duplicated anywhere. And so this is going to be some really neat stuff. So like I say, grab a piece of paper, grab a pencil, some other way you can take notes, and here in a second I'm going to share with you exactly what we do to start creating success and fixing dog aggression and training dogs in general.
Okay, so this little girl Gemma, this big girl, you've just seen with the video of what it looks like when she's with her owner. She was pulling as hard as she could. She was lunging. She was barking. Now this dog, it's not hype. The first time she met the other dog in the family, she attacked his throat. She bit him on the throat. When the owners tried to step in, she bit the owners, put the owners in the emergency room. And so this is a very serious dog with a very serious problem. And so that's why we wanted to turn this case into a case study to show you exactly what we do to take some of the absolute worst aggression out there and turn it around. Now, what we're going to do with this dog is what we do with every dog, which is we're going to put them through what we call our aggression formula, which is number one, achieve a high level of obedience. A high level of obedience is going to solve two things for you. Number one, it's going to help you get to a point to where the dog really sees you in a leadership role. That's critical. It's critical that your dog sees you in a leadership role, because if you're the leader, it doesn't make sense for her to be going off half-cocked trying to attack other dogs or people or whoever it might be. And so obedience does that, because the more obedient the dog is, the more they look to you as a leader. So that's number one. Number two, obedience is very calming and very soothing for a dog. Obedience comes from this mindset over here, which is calm and structured and under control. Aggression comes from this polar opposite, which is crazy, chaotic, hectic. And so we're going to work on a ton of obedience with her. Now, what we do, and why tons of people send their dogs to us and use our videos, is because we teach a level of obedience with the e-collar, and you're going to see actually just how humane this e-collar is during this case study. But we use a level of obedience with the e-collar that gets us to, here in a matter of weeks, we're going to accomplish what somebody can't accomplish in months or even years with treats. And so we're going to show you exactly how we do that. So that's step one, is to achieve that level of obedience. Step two is what we call obedience applied. It's not good enough that your dog lies down in the living room or comes in the backyard. We need her to be very obedient around what we call her aggression triggers. And so her triggers in this case, we know, are dogs. And so we need her to be obedient around dogs. And so it really boils down to three things, three core behaviors. She's got to come, she's got to stay, and she's got to heel properly. If she does those three things, we can solve almost anything, because if she comes when called, she can't tear off and go bite this dog. If she heels, she can't lunge at that dog. If she stays, she can't go tear off after that dog. So in any case, it sounds simplistic, but those three things allow us to solve almost anything. And then the last thing we need to do is we need to actually correct the aggression when it comes out. Now, we use a method that we call the step back recall. It's something that we've developed. It's unique to us. No one else is doing this. And it's very unique, and it's very powerful and effective, often very quickly, in helping a dog bring that intensity and that chaotic level from up here all the way to down here to where they can think and they can process. Now, dogs, when they're stressed, they've only got three options available to them. And what you're going to see over the next few weeks as we're working with her is you're going to see that she's got all three at her disposal. When they're stressed, they've got fight, flight, and avoidance. Now, you've seen her already in fight. She was 30 feet away from that dog, and she was trying to kill him. Had that dog been close, you would have seen some craziness, that she would have been attacking. Flight, is where the dog wants to run away, and avoidance is where the dog pretends to not see the other dog. Now, avoidance is not our ultimate goal, but avoidance is a good first step, because avoidance leads to acceptance. If she avoids this dog, and then she avoids that dog, and she avoids that dog, soon she starts to realize, hey, all these dogs, there's nothing bad happens. I don't need to be so stressed out about these dogs. So in any case, what we're going to teach her over the next few weeks is how to go into avoidance and how to take that avoidance and transfer that into acceptance to where she can accept other dogs. So I hope you enjoy this case study that we're going to do, because like I say, we're not going to pull any punches or hold anything back. We're going to show you exactly how we take a dog that's about as intense as it gets and help them overcome that issue in the most complete, the most comfortable way possible for both the owner and the dog. So stick right with us and enjoy the rest of the video.
So I want to share with you how to get a dog to stay put, because this is a key, one of our 3 core behaviors. And I always tell people the key in getting a dog to stay is what you do when the dog is not staying. So here in a second, he's going to start teaching her to go to a bed and stay. And it's really all about what he does when she gets up. And so every time she gets up, just a simple correction. We're using an e-collar correction. We're also using a leash correction to get her right back to her spot. And so if you have a dog that doesn't stay, you got to start with a leash. And you got to start teaching the concept. What most people do is they'll just simply tell the dog stay and hope the dog stays. Dogs don't learn that way. What you need to do is you need to spend time showing the dog. So you see, as she gets off the bed, just a little correction, she gets back on, some praise. Now he's allowed her off right there. Here in a second, he's going to put her back on. So like I say, it's not about what you do and what you say. It's about what you do when the dog is not staying. So see, as she gets off, he's correcting, she gets back on, and the praise starts. Corrections don't have to be these huge, big things. Oh, now she's getting a little correction here. Some light stimulation from the e-collar, so it doesn't have to be a huge thing. It just has to be enough to to be meaningful and get the dog's attention. So here in a second, we're going to teach you how to move on to the other core behaviors of walking properly and coming when called.
Okay, so we talked about it earlier in our very first little video. I gave you my aggression formula, and one of the pieces there was really high-end obedience. Not just obedience because I have a treat, not obedience when there's no distractions, but some really solid obedience. And so that really comes down to what we call our core behaviors, and there's 3 of them. We need a dog that comes when called, stays when told, and walks properly on a leash. Now, coming when called is going to be the foundation for what I'm going to show you a little bit later, called the step back recall. Staying when told is critical because she can't chase off after anyone if she stays when told. And proper leash walking is great for a couple reasons. It's great because it helps with the mindset of the dog. Meaning, a dog that, like her, that's always out looking for trouble, if she's paying attention to me, it doesn't make her to pay attention to other things. And so, so in any case, we need to really teach her a focused walk. She likes to pull on the leash, and so what we teach is what we call the crazy man method. And in a nutshell, I'm going to tell her, come on, and start walking, and if she's with me, I'm great. If she goes ahead, I'm going to do a 180, give a correction, go that way. If she goes ahead, I'm going to do a 180, go that way. Every direction she goes that's not right next to me, I'm going to give a correction and go a new direction. And so what she starts to realize is, man, I go this way and he goes that way, I go left and he goes right. This guy's crazy. I got to watch out for him. And so soon she realizes that by staying next to me, she can pay attention. So I'm going to demonstrate exactly what I'm talking about here. So come on. Come on. Good girl. Good girl. Come on. Good girl. There we go. Good girl. So you notice even she gets a tiny bit ahead of me, I'm already changing directions. Now, let me make another little note here, another little point. This is the benefit of a training collar. This is a big 130-pound dog. I don't have to use a ton of, and for those of you that even have 40-pound dogs and have a dog that pulls, you know how strong they can be. And so I don't want to try to match strength with strength. Number one, a lot of our clients can't. She's bigger than some of our clients. But number two, I don't like matching strength with strength. I don't like yanking a dog around. And so what I'm doing are these guiding little taps on the leash. And what they do is they guide her and help her understand what I want rather than just, plowing into her really hard. We don't need to do that. We can use corrections that are small but meaningful. And that's the value of a training collar, is it allows us to do, to have leverage. We don't have to use a whole lot of strength. So I'm going to do a little bit more. Come on. Good girl. Good girl. Come on. Good girl. Come on. What a good girl. There we go. Good girl. If she gets to the wrong side, I get her back to the correct side. Good girl. She loses focus. Come on. Good girl. Good girl. Now, she's had a few sessions with this already, so she's not awful at this. But here very quickly she's tuning up to where you can start to see her looking up at me, the tail's wagging, she's having a good time. That's exactly what we're looking for. We want a dog that understands where she's supposed to be and that it's fun to do that. It's enjoyable to stay next to the owner. And so this is just meant to be a case study, so I'm not going to do 20, 30 minutes of this. I just want to show you the concept here. But if you can apply this with your dog, you can get your dog walking well in no time. Alright, so what we're going to work on here is our recall. Recall meaning to come when called, of course. Now recall is super critical for every dog, but for dogs with aggression issues it's very, very critical. And like I said, you're going to see later as you see what we work on with our step back recall, which is how we can actually correct aggression and bring aggression down almost immediately. Now like I mentioned before, we're e-collar trainers, meaning we like to use low-level stimulation with e-collars in a way that's humane and fair, but very quickly communicates concepts that are going to better her life and better her owner's life too. And so we use the e-collar to teach a nice recall. Now, the way I like to teach this is by explaining what people do wrong. Because a lot of people have dogs that don't come when called, and so a lot of people on their own buy an e-collar and they slap it on their dog and they tell the dog to come, the dog doesn't come, and bam, they hit the button. But think about it, why would the dog come? He's got no reason to, this is just a weird little stimulation. If you go really high, it's painful. If you go really low, it's just literally a tickle. And so here's our dog feeling this weird little stimulation from 30 feet away. Why would she come to you? There's no reason for her to think that tickle means come back to mom. So what we need to do, or I guess the way I always explain it, is this is very non-compelling. This is literally just a little tickle. Whereas the leash is very compelling. If I pull on it, it's obvious what I want. So I need to combine the two, and what we can do is very soon get rid of the leash and have an off-leash recall. And so I'm simply going to let her get away from me. I'm going to hold down the button for a couple seconds before I give the command. And I always do that just to kind of introduce that stimulation, introduce the weird feeling. And I'm going to tell her here, and as I'm going to pull a little bit on the leash, and as she comes, I'm going to release the button. So like I say, if I do that over and over and over, as soon as she starts to realize, oh, okay, every time I come, that little tickle shuts off. And it's not terribly meaningful because it's just this little tickle. But with repetition, we can even get high-end recall, meaning even with distraction, we can have a great recall with just a tiny little stimulation. So I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about here. I'm going to let her get nice and distracted. So I'm going to hold it down, 1, 2, here, good girl. Good girl. I'm going to go down to really low level. Okay, okay, good girl. Watch out for the tail on this one. So I'm going to hold it down, 1, 2, here, good girl. Good girl, what a good girl. What a good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Now you can do whatever you like. I'm most concerned about the behavior. I want the dog to come when called. And so if she comes and she's crooked, I don't care. Some people like the dog to come and sit. Go ahead and teach the dog to do that. That's fine. So it's 1, 2, here. Good girl. Good girl. And it's as simple as that. So what we're going to do is we're going to work on that over these next couple weeks. And that's going to get us a nice recall. And once we have that, we're going to use that with our step back recall, which is going to work on the aggression. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, so I told you that in our aggression formula that we've got to get our core behaviors, and so we've gone over those. We've gone over our 3 core behaviors, and like I say, we like to teach them with the e-collar. There's no quicker way, no more complete way, no easier way for you and the dog than to get those behaviors with the e-collar, and so that's what we were showing the whole time. And our programs are based on that. Now we want to move away from the e-collar as the dog gets better at this. But for the beginning stages, we teach with the e-collar on very low level stimulation. In fact, when most people feel it, they're surprised. They're like, my dog's crazy, she's barking, she's lunging, she's attacking. Well, it's not about pain, and it's not about these heavy feelings, it's about communication. And so, like I say, we've got our core behaviors, but I also mentioned to you in the beginning of this video that the aggression formula calls for actually correcting the aggression when it starts. And so all dogs have what's called what we call an aggression trigger. It's something that triggers it, and they all have what I call an aggression snowball. So they're triggered, and they're thinking about it, and it gets bigger, and their fur goes up, and they're puffing their chest out, and then they're lunging, and then they're attacking. And anyone that's seen aggressive dogs knows exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe that snowball takes 20 seconds, maybe it takes 20 minutes, Well, not 20 minutes, but you know, that snowball might be just a few seconds, or it might be, you know, a minute or two. But what we want to do is, before it becomes a snowball, we want to make sure that we're calling the dog back to us. So like I say, what I'm doing is, as we lose the focus and she starts focusing on the aggression trigger, I step back, I tell her to come, and if she doesn't immediately come, just a quick little correction. Again, we're using a very low level correction here. But what happens is, as we do this over and over and over, the dog starts to realize, hey, every time I lose focus, I lose control, and I start paying attention over here, you know, he's just back there calling me. And so what's the point in even losing focus in the first place? He's just going to call me over. And so what we start to see is, we start to see the dog make better choices. And so you're seeing that right now. You know, the dog, she's a little bit stressed. You can tell that in the video. But she's making some really positive choices, because literally 5 minutes previous, you know, she was trying to lunge at this dog and trying to kill him. And now she's calm around him. She's looking at me. She's paying attention to me. And so she's learning to make positive choices. Now, if I start to see her snowball even a little bit, you know, to where she's looking at him, she's breathing heavy, she's puffing up, you know, whatever the case might be, I'm going to immediately step back, call her, and give a quick correction if she's not coming. We want to be quick with our timing here, meaning I'm going to give one free command, meaning no correction, but I'm going to follow that up pretty quickly with a correction if she's not immediately coming back. Because like I say, when we do that, we can actually create a reflex, which then in turn teaches the dog to, like I say, self-correct, or in other words, you know, kind of self-control. So here in a second, I'm going to show you some more video of the step back recall, because at this point it's kind of boring, you know, because she's not reacting, which is exactly what we want. And that's the benefit here of the step back recall, is very quickly it can teach the dog to block out all this noise, all this stress, all this confusion that has typically plagued that dog, and teach the dog how to work through that. So here, stay tuned for a second. I'm going to show you just some more step back recall in a different setting.
Okay, so we're walking down the street here, and we found some more dogs. Now these are dogs behind fences, and she's already starting to react to them, and so we're going to work on our step back recall again, just to show you a little bit more footage on how that's done. Now you can do dogs behind fences. You can even do this before she's acting crazy. You saw the original video how, given the opportunity, she's pulling and she's barking and she's lunging and she'll even bite and attack, given the opportunity. But aggression starts somewhere, and that's the beginning of the snowball. So even though she's not acting crazy right now, as we approach this dog behind the fence, as she starts to get in that state of mind, I just kind of checked her and moved back, and she was really paying attention to me. Notice I'm not using much leash, I'm mostly just using really low level. Here. She got away from me that time. Here. Good girl. Here. Now in this case, there we go, good girl. Here, our threshold was smaller, meaning she got really up close and personal, so that chaos in her really spiked. Here, good girl. So I'm gonna take it back a little bit. Here, and not get so close. I'm gonna work myself back to that distance eventually. Here. And you're gonna notice that with aggression, that there's different thresholds. In the beginning, she would show aggression at 200 feet. Now, you know, it's down to 20 feet. And as we keep working 20 feet, that turns into 5, and then 3, and then 2, and then 1, and then none. But we've got to keep working those thresholds. And what I found there was that I pushed the threshold too fast. You know, she didn't know, you know, she's not great at it, and so she got up close and personal with the dog behind the fence, and it was too fast for her. So we really just need to work her at a little bit longer distance and gradually bring that threshold in. But in any case, that's a step back recall. That's one of the best ways that you can absolutely use an e-collar to overcome aggression issues. And we'll show you how this progresses so that we can eventually get her up close and in person with other dogs, but yeah, that's exactly how you can do it too. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to try to get that threshold even lower. Like I mentioned previously, the threshold is going to get smaller and smaller as you work this, and we're going to try to get that threshold as low as we possibly can. And that's why I've got the muzzle on her. Now, I don't like muzzles as a long-term solution. I don't think they're, I only say that because I've seen people, they get a muzzle and it's day in, day out for 10 years. I don't want that. We want the dog to live normal. But as far as the first time we're going to have her around another dog, we want to make sure everyone's safe. Now, she doesn't like the muzzle. Nobody likes the muzzle. What we try to do is make sure we're conditioning the dog to the muzzle, having her wear it at various times so that when we actually use it for training, it's less of a big deal. And you can tell that's happening. When the first time she ever had a muzzle on, she was just pawing at it and trying to get it off as much as she can. And now she's accepting it a lot better. So what we're going to do is just kind of gradually decrease our threshold. Come on. What I'm going to do is watch what she's telling me. If she's telling me that she's feeling very nervous or stressed, well, she is nervous or stressed. But if she's going to lash out with that stress, then I'm going to do on my step back recall. Now, what she's doing right now, I want to point this out. She's going into avoidance behavior. Dogs, when they're stressed, when they're afraid, when they have these types of emotions, they've only got 3 options available to them. They've got fight, flight, and avoidance. Now, we know that this is a fight dog. She chooses fight. That's one of the first things that she runs to. And so we don't want that. We know that. We also don't want flight. Flight would be if she was just tearing my arm off trying to run away. We also don't want that. That's not good, nor is she even doing that. The third is avoidance. Now, avoidance is the lesser of 3 evils for a couple of reasons. Number one, anything that's not fight or flight is much better in my book. But 2, what avoidance does is avoidance leads to acceptance. If she can go into avoidance around him today and tomorrow, and then that dog, and then this dog, and then the other dog, she starts to realize, hey, nothing bad ever happens, and we start to see a level of acceptance where she says, oh, okay, I can accept other dogs. Other dogs are okay. And so, come on, I'm going to get her a little bit closer. This is where it gets tough. I need to watch body language. You see, this is great. It was maybe a week and a half ago, you saw the video, she was trying to kill this dog. Now, a week and a half in, she can tolerate his presence. She doesn't like it. She's looking away, she's in avoidance. But again, that's a valuable piece of the step. Now, some dogs, they might not ever like other dogs. They don't have to like them. They just can't attack them. That's obviously got to be our rule. And so, come on. Come on. Ushe. And see, she's actually got decent body language. Yes, she's in avoidance, but the tail's kind of this slow wag. We don't see a lot of tension in the body. And so this is textbook avoidance, and it's not a bad thing. There is a better thing. A better thing is acceptance. But this is the road we take if the dog is going to accept other dogs. Like I say, we've worked with some dogs where they don't accept other dogs. They're not aggressive towards them, but they just don't want to deal with it, and so they go into avoidance a lot more than maybe some other dogs. Here we go. Here. Good girl. Now, I just simply called her because she'd been in that state of mind for, a minute or two, where she's just kind of sitting next to him and she's stressed about it. I'm just going to break that up and get her to come to me. Sit. Good girl. Having her sit or having her lie down can be beneficial as well because it gives her something to do. It gives her mind something to be occupied with rather than, the fear of this other dog. And that's most of the aggression we see is fear-based. The fur comes up, the dog's afraid. And like I say, fear leads to that fight, flight, and avoidance. And so this is probably about all we're going to get right now, to where she's in avoidance, but she's not attacking. In fact, if I took off the muzzle, we'd probably be fine. But the next many sessions I'm going to work on with her and other dogs, we're going to want the muzzle on. We want to be safe. We want to make sure everyone's taken care of. We don't want to rush things too fast and say, hey, you're doing great, no muzzle, let's go play. We've got to build her up to that. Everything that we've been doing over this last week and a half has been building her up to get to the point where she can simply tolerate dogs. And so, like I said, that's why our method is so powerful, is because it can work fast. It can cut through a lot of this garbage that's been building up in the dog for a long time, and it can help the dog feel a lot more comfortable. Like I say, she's not super comfortable, but this is a heck of a lot more comfortable than lunging and attacking. This is a dog that's starting to realize how to have a little bit of self-control. Again, I'd love to see a prettier picture where she's all happy, but that's going to come. You know, that's going to come with this dog. Part of her issue is she just doesn't like having the muzzle on. That's going to make any dog feel down. But like I say, we want her to work through this issue, and I'm confident that she's going to continue progressing in this way. Come on.
All right, so now that we've been doing step back recall and we've actually got her fairly close to other dogs, we're going to stay with the muzzle, but we're going to start working on getting her up close and personal with other dogs. Now, I don't like a muzzle as a long-term solution, but as a short-term help, it can be great. And so we've got her on a muzzle, and what we're going to do is we're going to do control exercises around other dogs. So this, folks, is why all that obedience training is so important. Now, in our boot camp, we get this done in a couple weeks. You know, this is less than 2 weeks into the training. You know, for clients that are just working with us in private sessions or with our DVDs, it's going to take a little bit longer. Like I say, you're going to get to the point where you've got good obedience, and now we've got to get her around another dog. So she's on a leash, she's on her training collar, she's on a muzzle, and we've got a dog that's under control. Now, we wouldn't want to do this with a dog that's just crazy and wild. But what we want to do is she is so used to being around other dogs in a frame of mind that is just pure madness, pure chaos. You know, she's used to being around other dogs in this frame of mind that says bark, lunge, be aggressive. And so what we want to do is go to our core behaviors. We're going to have her heel. We're going to have her sit. We're going to have her come. We're going to have her do things that are structured because, again, structure is always the enemy of chaos. And so the more structure we see, the less chaos the dog is available, is available to the dog. Dogs can't exist in two states of mind at the same time. And so as you see, as we get this nice obedience, there's no room for chaos, and she's a calm dog. And so what we like to do is then up the ante. So, you know, we get this other dog. Yeah, he's still under control, but now he's chasing the ball. That's going to incite some other dogs. And so, again, that's why we, you know, keep the muzzle on so that, you know, if she decides to go for it, that, you know, we're still going to be fine. We got to make sure that everyone stays safe and everyone's you know, that as we're training that we're not putting anybody in any real risk. But like I say, you can see, you know, we go back to some healing. We're going to have the dog sit. It always comes back, folks, to that obedience and that structure. You know, getting her to lie down there, getting her dog to lie down around another dog can be a big step, you know, because essentially, you know, we're asking the dog to feel very vulnerable. And so, like I say, we want to use some leash training, some e-collar training, but it's all going to be on the back of structure here. So where we're going to go from here, which you're going to see in a second, is she's doing really well. You can obviously tell, you know, she's not acting aggressive. She would have been trying to kill this dog a week and a half ago. And so at this point in our training, and if you get to this point with your dog, at this point, you know, it's time to do some training without the muzzle and time to show the dog that, hey, even without the muzzle, you know, we've got rules, we've got standards, we've got things that we expect out of you. But don't try to go too fast here. You know, like I say, this is less than 2 weeks for us. But if this is you doing this at home or whatnot, there's no need to rush. You know, take your time in doing this because you want to make sure at each step before you give the dog a little bit more freedom that the dog has earned that freedom. You know, we always say that freedom is not something that should be just given. Freedom is something that's earned. And so in this case, we're talking about freedom from the muzzle, freedom from a leash, for example. And she needs to earn that by showing that she can just continue to be good around other dogs. So like I say, this is a huge step for her. This is her first time being around other dogs, you know, without being aggressive. So now we're moving on, and you can see she's off muzzle. She's still on a leash in case we need to grab that leash, but we've got various dogs now, and we've got various activities going on with those dogs. And so, you know, they're playing ball, they're running around, and you can tell right now she doesn't necessarily want to get involved. And that's fine. She's staying on the outskirts. Her body language is good. You know, she's wagging her tail, chasing her tail, you know, in this case. But it's body language that's okay. You know, she's not tense, she's not attacking. And so we're going to be fine with that. You know, we're going to allow her to stay on the outskirts or come get some human attention. And not try to push it, not try to say, no, 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 you got to hang out with the dogs. The dogs are there. They're in her peripheral. She knows that. She's a smart dog. And we want, now that she's making good decisions, we want her to start feeling more and more comfortable. And that's where this next section of the video is maybe a day or two later. So we've done a few sessions of that. and this is the final result. She's still going to be with us for another week or so, but the beautiful part here is check this dog out. 2 weeks ago, she was attacking, she was lunging, she was a maniac. And now look at her. She's playing with dogs. She's being just fine with dogs. This is great. We want to provide this for you. We want to provide this result for you. So not everyone's is a right fit to work with us. That's fine. But I want you to kind of gaze your eyes down below this video. Now that you've seen what we're able to do, I know that we can accomplish this for you too. Whether you're dealing with aggression or just simply obedience and destruction or whatnot, look down below the video. There's 3 options. We've got our DVDs, for curing dog aggression. We've got a whole program that can help you go through this exact same process that we've gone through with this dog. We've also got a section where if you're in Utah, you can work with us. Or if you're outside of Utah, you can send your dog to us. We get a lot of folks that do that. We actually have payment plans that make it quite affordable for a lot of people. And if that's something you're interested in, there's a link where you can actually set up a time to get on my calendar and speak with me, and we'll get on the phone. We'll talk about your dog. We'll talk about your dog's issues, and we'll do that. And then the final link is maybe you're here and your dog doesn't even have any aggression issues, but you want to work on some advanced obedience or some foundation obedience. Well, the last link there is going to show you some different DVD options that we have to where we can help you get some really great obedience with your dog. Regardless, you came here for a reason today. You came here because you need help with your dog. Maybe your dog's insanely aggressive. Maybe your dog just needs some touch-up and needs some help. No matter what the case is, we've got solutions for you. And like I say, a big part of this here was showing you how to do it. But another big part was just helping you have hope that no matter where you are with your dog, that you can see some results. There's no need to keep doing what you're doing. If you're having problems with your dog, there's no need for trial and error. Whatever you're dealing with, we've already figured it out, and we've already done it with dozens of other dogs, hundreds of other dogs, in some cases even thousands of other dogs. And so whatever the issue you're dealing with, there is a solution, and we can help you find it. So is your dog as happy as he or she should be? Check out this dog. 2 weeks ago, she was not a happy camper, and today she can hang out with other dogs, enjoy her life, and we want to be able to provide those types of results for you too. So like I say, thanks for being on the video today. Down below, I encourage you to check out the different links and the different options that we have for serving dog owners just like you. We'd love to be able to serve you, and so please get in touch and let us know the best way that we can be a resource in helping you have the absolute best dog that you're looking to have. Thanks so much. This is Ty Brown signing off. Have a great day.